Dear Greg, I'm 11 years old. At school during our break times, sometimes my friends argue, and then one of them will go to the teacher and tell her what has happened. The teacher speaks to both of them and tells them to both say they're sorry and make up. Then the teacher yells at us and tells us to be kinder to each other. I know this doesn't work because it keeps happening. I've read the Real Love books, but I still don't know what I can do to help in this situation.
I really admire the fact that at your age you recognize that something is wrong with this situation. You're right, it doesn't work. So, something does need to be done differently. First, let's examine what's happening. You've read the Real Love book, so you know that what people need most is to feel loved unconditionally. And when they don't have it, they lie, they get angry, they act like victims, and so on to protect themselves and to fill up their emptiness. It's obvious that your friends don't feel enough love. That's why they argue with each other. Then they go to the teacher, hoping the teacher will solve their problems. But the teacher responds by getting angry and making everybody apologize. I'm sure you see how crazy that is. Your friends already don't feel loved. And when the teacher gets angry and tries to control their behavior, she's telling them that she doesn't love them either. So the teacher actually makes things worse. Most adults do. Most adults don't feel loved either, so they respond to children in unloving ways, and that only makes children feel even worse than they did. So, what can you do in all this? In the first place, remember that you're not responsible for making everybody happy. You're responsible only for being as loving as you can be. So, what would that look like? Let's picture that two of your friends are arguing over something. In almost every case, when people are arguing, they're trying to be right. And they're trying to get the other person to listen to them, usually because the other person isn't listening. People argue over pretty ridiculous things. So I'll make up a ridiculous subject for your two friends to argue about, and we'll call your friends Susie and Melissa. Susie says that Guess jeans are the best, while Melissa claims that Calvin Klein jeans are much better. Their argument is getting heated because neither of them is listening to the other. This is where you come in, because you understand that the real problem is not a disagreement about jeans. It's about neither girl feeling like the other is listening. They don't feel cared for. Really, that's the problem. So, when Susie says that Guess jeans are best, and Melissa starts to argue, you say something like, "Hey, I'd like to hear this whole thing from both of you without any interruptions. So, Susie, would you tell me all about why Guess jeans are better? I've always wanted to know." And Melissa, I want to hear all about Calvin Klein jeans too, but only after we hear the whole thing about Guess. Is that all right with everybody? Then you'll see to it that both girls get to tell their entire story. You don't take sides. You just show an absolute delight as you hear the advantages of each kind of jean from each girl. You thank them both for the information. And in the end, they both feel genuinely heard. When they both feel like someone listened to them, when they feel heard and important, there will be nothing at all to argue about. On the off chance that they do still want to argue, could happen, again you interrupt, saying, "It's obvious that you both have a preference, and your preference is different. Now we know exactly why you like the style you like, but neither of you is going to change her mind, right? So why not just allow the other person to have her preference?" Arguments are about the lack of real love, and you'll discover all your life that if you can supply that missing ingredient, arguments will tend to die for a lack of fuel. It's always about real love.